Kill decisively, plus, two-sided Su Nuo, plus, Devil's Fruit. Rodi traveled to the world of the One Piece and gained the ability to perform the two nightmares, gradually becoming the ruler of the world. Chapter 1. The Great Axe Pirates. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. A deserted island in the East China Sea. This deserted island is covered with dense green vegetation, and tall trees stand tall and lush. The sunlight shone through the interwoven gaps of leaves on the ground, and in this peaceful forest, a man with a tattooed face lay on the grass with his eyes tightly closed. The man on the grass is tall and muscular, as perfect as a sculpture. Each muscle is as hard as fine iron, with smooth lines and a sense of power. The man opened his eyes, sat cross-legged on the grass with one hand, took a deep breath to adjust his mood, and then silently opened the system panel. Host. Rodi, two-sided Su Nuo, age. 24 ability. 1. Reversal technique, which can repair injuries to oneself and others through curse power, except for spiritual and soul injuries. Ability. 2. Superb learning talent, as long as it meets one's own conditions, one can quickly learn the abilities of others. For abilities that cannot be learned, one can also quickly analyze the weaknesses of others and find corresponding countermeasures. Ability. 3. Domain. Subduing demons and being a skilled cook, blending in the dark courtyard. Ability. 4. 10 shadow spells, black box. Open ability. 5. Powerful soul. Rodi looked at his attribute panel and felt his blood boil inside. Rodi stood up and extended 2 fingers towards the forest in front of him. With a gentle flick, he flew out with a slash, dividing the trees and rocks in half. Looking ahead, there was a mess caused by the falling trees and rocks. Rodi couldn't help but burst out laughing happily. Rodi walked out of a messy forest with both hands in his pockets and arrived at the beach on a deserted island. He looked at the endless sea in front of him, with no living creatures except for occasional seabirds flying in the sky. After a moment of contemplation, Rodi made a mark on his chest with both hands, and suddenly a monster bird much larger than a human flew out of the shadow under his feet. Rodi lightly jumped onto his broad back, flapping his wings to blow up the sand on the ground before flying into the sky. After Rodi randomly chose a direction to let the bird fly, he began to ponder on the back of the bird standing with his arms around his chest. What I have obtained is all the strength before the strongest battle of the two-faced Nuo, except for the weapons Feitian and Shenwujie. I have not learned the techniques of space slash and healing style fusing that the two-faced Nuo comprehended in the strongest battle. However, with a strong talent for learning, and knowing the principles, the healing technique of fusing should be learned quickly, and the space slash should not take long. For weapons, find a special material similar to Walpole alloy to forge, and after forging successfully, give the weapon the Devil's Fruit. Such weapons should not be inferior. As Rodi pondered, the vast sea ahead vaguely revealed the outline of a small island. However, Rodi is not in a hurry. I wonder if it's due to the influence of the two-faced Nuo. Rodi's already good appetite has increased, and sometimes he uses daydreaming to empty his mind when he has nothing to do. Shigua town, ha. Little ones, all give it to me. Grab all the food, women, and money for me. A person who is 3 meters tall, has a lewd face, fierce eyes, and a few strands of hair floating sparsely on top of his head. Standing at the bow of the ship, he holds a large axe weighing over 100 pounds and roars ahead with his yellow teeth that are full of ups and downs. Captain of the Great Axe Pirates. Gri Dong. Bounty of 10 million Bailey. Upon hearing the captain's command, a group of pirates who had already lost their desire to plunder, screamed and rushed off the ship to plunder everywhere. Immediately, the originally peaceful town of Shigua seemed like a hell on earth, filled with cries, screams, and cries for mercy everywhere. Brother, won't our great momentum attract the navy? At this moment, a man who was less than 1.5 meters tall, with a sleazy appearance and an equally sparse head, slowly walked up to Dong with a cigarette in his mouth and said with an ugly expression. "Lumen, who do you think I am? I'm Dong. I have inquired and found out that this is the jurisdiction of the 16th Naval Branch. The person in charge here is a useless colonel named Mouse. That useless person cannot come to fight against us because I am a pirate with a bounty of up to 10 million Bailey." Ha 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 ha. Looked up and burst out laughing wildly. In the East China Sea, which is known as the weakest sea, the bounty of 10 million Baileys is still unmatched by many pirates. No wonder he is so confident and reckless. Truman dared not speak too much upon hearing this. Although he was the second in command on the ship and also Dong's brother, his bounty was only a meager 4 million Bailey, which was far from his cruel brother, the great axe Dong. The pirates who went to plunder not long ago have already taken control of this small town. Starting in groups of 3 or 2, the town residents were driven to the square of the town and gathered together. There were also scattered rebels among the town residents, but they were all in vain and would soon be chopped down by pirates. Dong walked to the square of the small town with a big axe and watched the villagers being rushed to the square. Dong grinned at the pirate minions beside him and said, "Go find the mayor of this small town." In no time, the pirate minion caught an old man around 60 from the panicked townspeople and brought him to Dong. Dong reached out with his right hand and picked up the old man, asking, "Is there any hidden money in this town? You'd better be honest, otherwise you'll all be killed." The mayor replied in a trembling tone, "You have taken all the money from the pirate lord's town, except for the watermelon that has not been picked yet. There is no more money left." Upon hearing this, Dong threw the old man in his hand onto the ground and said to the pirate minion next to him, "Go and chop off all the watermelons for me." I, on the other hand, approached with a big axe to prepare and ended up with the mayor and old man. At this moment, a pirate under his command looked up at the sky and exclaimed in surprise, "Heaven! What is that in the sky?" Dong followed his gaze and looked up into the sky. I saw a black shadow rapidly descending from the sky. In the center of the town square, a gust of wind suddenly blew up, causing dust to scatter and dance on the ground. The dust settled and Dong looked towards the center of the square. In the center of the square, there appeared a tall, indifferent man with tattoos on his face. Rodi scanned everyone present with an indifferent expression, and finally turned his gaze to the ugly 3-meter-tall man Dong, unable to help but marvel at the wonder of the world. Dong recovered from the shock of the other party falling from the sky and looked at Rodi's indifferent gaze, so angry that his forehead veins were bulging and he swung an axe towards Rodi. "Kid! What kind of gaze are you looking at? Do you know who I am? I'm a big axe, Dong." The pirate minion beside him came to his senses and shouted, "You're dead, kid. Our captain is a bounty of millions of pirates. If you dare to provoke our captain, he will definitely use a large axe to split you in half." Chapter 2. Little Wildcat, Nami. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the ugly man in front of him, Rodi said with an indifferent expression, "What a noisy bug." Dong's face was grim as he heard the words, and he was about to step towards Rodi when his large axe suddenly fell to the ground, making a soft ding sound. Immediately after, Dong's upper body slid diagonally down his right shoulder to his left abdomen, blood gushing out from his standing lower body, and his younger brother Truman beside him was covered in hair and face. Truman ignored the blood all over his body and trembled as he looked at his brother who had fallen to the ground with his upper body, his eyes wide open and his face full of despair. How could? Brother, you are a pirate with a bounty of millions." The noisy pirates on the square also quieted down, and the square fell into a deathly silence. Killing value +1, oh, it's a bit interesting. Listening to the system prompt in his ear, Rodi silently opened the system panel. Host. Rodi, 2-sided Su Nuo, age. 24 killing value. 1 ability. 1, Reversal Technique, 2. Superb Learning Talent, 3 Realms. Demon Subduing Kitchen, Integrating Dark Shadow Court, 4. 10 Shadow Spells, Black Box. Open, 5. Powerful Soul. While Rodi was contemplating the additional kill values in the system panel, suddenly, Gree Truman put down his weapon and knelt down on Rodi's knees, his forehead pressed against the ground, trembling as he said, "Please spare our lives, Lord. We are willing to follow Lord around." After hearing this, the pirates in the field quickly threw away their weapons and knelt down on Rodi's knees, shouting, "Please spare our lives, Lord. We are willing to follow Lord." Looking at the pirate kneeling on the ground in the field, Rodi said coldly, "Think of me as a garbage dump, take everything." After speaking, Rodi waved his hand and all the pirates kneeling on the field were split in half, with blood gushing out from the cut where the pirates were waist chopped. The gushing blood slowly dyed the town square red like a rain curtain. At this moment, the townspeople who were caught in the square screamed in panic, and some elderly people, children, and women were frightened and fainted on the ground. Rodi looked towards these panicked and screaming townspeople, and the screams immediately stopped. One by one, the townsmen covered their mouths tightly with their hands, their bodies trembling, their eyes wide open and staring blankly at the ground, afraid to look at Rodi. Rodi walked through a scene of bloody corpses and slowly arrived at the side of the square. There was a large backrest chair, and Rodi turned around to sit down. He clenched his fist in his right hand, pressed his elbow against the back of the chair, and pressed his face against his fist. He looked at the old mayor who was limping on the ground. The mayor walked up to Rodi trembling and asked, "Big. Is there anything we can do for you, Lord?" Rodi said calmly, "Bring up all the drinks, food, and delicious food from the town, go ahead." After waiting for the mayor to prepare food, Rodi looked towards the narrow alleyway of the square and said, "Woman, after watching for so long, it's time to come out." "What? What should we do?" "If you don't go out, you will definitely die." "What will happen to Nokigo, Uncle Aegean, and everyone in Kekiaxi village?" "They will quickly gather enough Bailey to redeem Kekiaxi village from Alon." I can't die yet. Anyway, I must survive," Nami thought, leaning against the pitch-black wall in the alley. Just as Rodi was getting a little impatient waiting, Nami trembled as she walked past a bloody corpse on the ground and came to Rodi. Looking at Nami with orange short hair, blue and white striped short sleeves on her upper body, and an orange short buttock skirt on her lower body, at this moment, Nami has not yet experienced many adventures with Straw Hat Luffy. Compared to the mature and sexy later stage of the original work, her figure and face appear slightly youthful and immature. However, due to carrying the debt of the entire town, I have been a thief who specializes in stealing pirates since I was young. Even though my body trembles, my eyes still show strength. Nami. Right. I have some understanding of your situation, so I won't talk much nonsense. Rodi smiled and said, "My name is Rodi. I'll help you take down Alon. How about you spend your whole life serving me?" Trembling Nami was taken aback by the words and said, "How do you know?" "No, wait a moment, stop joking, that's a mermaid." "You don't know that, do you? The power of a mermaid is 10 times that of a human by nature. And they can also fight underwater, even the warships led by a naval brigadier general cannot match them." Rodi smiled and said, "Do you know that the mermaids are just one of the most popular slaves in the great trade of people on the sea route?" "Slaves. Slaves. Yes, slaves." Nami was stunned at the words, as if she couldn't believe it. Those arrogant fish men, who claimed to be noble, were just a relatively popular commodity on the Great Voyage. Rodi stood up and approached the stunned Nami, her tall body blocking all the light in front of her. She reached out to pick up Nami's chin and stared at his still youthful and tender face. "How to become a little wildcat that belongs only to me, and I will help you clear all obstacles and draw a world's navigation map. Let's not talk about why you know about me for now. Nami sorted her thoughts and stared into Rodi's eyes, asking, "What kind of person are you? Suddenly appearing in town and killing all the pirates. Pirates? Navy? Or bounty hunters?" Rodi said arrogantly, "I am not a navy or pirate, nor a bounty hunter. I am myself. I will kill anyone I want, and I will save anyone I want. I am truly a free person." "Okay. Okay. What is your purpose?" Nami asked again. "I want to taste all the delicious food in the world, and also go on great voyages to fight against powerful opponents," Rodi replied. "The Great Route." At this moment, Nami also calmed down the impact caused by the bloody corpses on the ground, and her mind became much clearer. Although that place is dangerous, many chambers of commerce in the East China Sea have navigation capabilities, right? "Why are you still looking for me?" "Because of talent." "Talent?" "Because I want to go to an empty island. I am interested in the air shells and rulers there. However, the place is located at an altitude of tens of thousands of meters and requires a jet current to get there. There are not many people with this kind of navigational talent," Rodi replied. 10,000 meters high, jet current. Upon hearing this, Nami looked at Rodi in a daze and said, "Empty island. Me." Rodi nodded and said, "Yes, that's right. Are you really going to help me take down Alon?" Nami asked. Rodi replied, "Of course. Okay, I promise you." Suddenly, Nami's face lit up with a pleasing smile and she said, "Captain, when are we leaving?" "Don't worry." Rodi ignited flames in his right hand and caressed Nami's left shoulder. "I don't want my little Wildcat to have such an ugly mark on its body." Rodi turned around and went to the place where the townspeople were preparing food. "Also, call me Rodi." Nami looked at her fair left shoulder, her body trembling, her upper teeth biting her lower lip, tears involuntarily rolling from her eyes. The ugly pattern that made her feel disgusted and humiliated disappeared from her shoulder. "Yes, Captain Rodi." Chapter 3. Crooby, Slaying. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the year 1519 of the Haiyuan calendar. East China Sea, early morning, gentle sunshine spreads on the blue sea, and the sky occasionally hears the chirping of seabirds. The morning breeze blew over the slightly damp deck, and today should be a nice day. A warship with 4 hands hanging from a flag, palms open, and an eye pattern in each palm, is sailing in this sea area. Target, Kekiaxi village. On the second deck of the ship, there was a 4-meter-long white dog crawling and lying. Rodi, wearing a black coat, leaned against the back of the white dog and tasted a cup of watermelon juice in his hand, looking thoughtfully at the sea ahead. Killing value. 1. Looking at the kill value on the system in front of me, there were over 100 pirates killed yesterday, except for the one who initially killed the pirate with a reward of 10 million. The system popped up a prompt and later killed those pirates, but the system did not respond. Are they too weak? This broken system doesn't even have a user manual, and there's no indication of the usefulness of the kill value. Rodi smiled and said, "But is that what's interesting?" At the hatch of the ship, Nami carried a large bag full of jewelry in gold and crawled out of the cabin. She casually threw a bag full of jewelry and gold onto the deck. Nami patted the ash on her hand and shouted to Rodi, who was lying on the white back of the jade dog, "Rodi, I found a lot of treasure on this pirate ship. Do you want to take a look and see if you need anything?" "I'm not interested, these treasures are all entrusted to you for safekeeping," Rodi said lazily. As the sun tilted towards the west, Rodi lay on the back of the white dog, reaching out to gently caress its head, gazing at the gradually revealed coastline in the distance. "Nami, is that the one up there?" Upon hearing Rodi's voice, Nami reluctantly put down her treasure that had been countless times in her hand and hurriedly ran to the bow of the ship, gazing at the distant coast with a furrowed brow. "That's right, as long as you bypass this coast and sail for a while, you'll be there. However, there are often fishermen patrolling in this sea area." As soon as the words fell, there was a loud crash. A lime-skinned cartilaginous fish man jumped from the sea onto the deck of the ship, and then 7 or 8 fish men with swords jumped onto the deck. Crooby. Crooby the fish man looked contemptuously at Rodi, who was still lazily leaning on the back of the jade dog, before turning his gaze to Nami and saying, "Nami, it seems that you don't intend to buy back the village of Cocoa West. Do you think relying on this weak human can resist our noble fish man?" The other fish people who jumped onto the ship also waved their swords and shouted, "Humans, our fish people are born with 10 times your strength. How dare you resist us? How dare you resist us? We are noble fish people." Nami stood on the deck, looking at the fish man shouting in front of her, her face full of panic and confusion. "Oh. Noble." Upon hearing this, Rodi rested his left leg on his right leg, punched with his right hand, and leaned his elbow against the back of the jade dog. His face rested on the fist, and he looked at the group of fish people with a playful expression in his eyes. It seems that during the years following Alon's escape from the Great Route to the East China Sea, you have forgotten that you were once just slaves and commodities. Upon hearing this, Crooby's expression changed from contempt to ferocity, and the fish people on the deck, who were still waving swords and shouting, suddenly fell silent. Nami looked at Rodi with a hopeful expression on her face. Crooby clenched his hand into a fist, his veins bulging on his arm, and his face twisted as he said, very well, human. You have successfully angered me. Human, I will use our powerful fishman technique. Fishman karate will first smash your mouth, see if you dare to say such things, and then kill you. Human, you're doomed. Crooby, big brother, is a master of fishman karate in our pirate group. Moreover, Brother Crooby's bounty is 9 million Bailey. That's right, Brother Crooby is a great pirate with a reward of 9 million Bailey. The fishermen on the deck shouted along. As the fish men on the deck were shouting, Crooby's leg muscles contracted, his legs slightly bent, and he pushed his legs hard against the deck, with a grim expression and shouting, "Fishman karate," charging towards Rodi. Rodi looked at Crooby, the fish man rushing towards him with a playful expression on his face. Suddenly, Crooby rushed towards Rodi, his head and neck separated, and the headless body ran 2 steps before crashing onto the deck of the ship with a thud. Blood gushed out from the severed neck, and the flying head rolled to Rodi's feet, still shouting, 100 watts. Town. Killing value +1, oh. However, Rodi has not yet taken care of the system. Rodi stood up, grabbing the little braid behind Crooby's head and lifting its head that had fallen at his feet. Rodi lifted Crooby's head and observed it closely. Apart from the gray color of his head, there was nothing different from humans, and the blood flowing out was also red. After looking at the corpse on the deck, it is possible that there are not many fish features on the head of a cartilaginous fish, but there are quite a few fish features on the body. The fish man who was just shouting suddenly fell silent, his eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at the headless body of Crooby on the deck. No, big brother Crooby. Crooby, you're a master of fishman karate. Just died like this. The fish people looked at Rodi, who was still holding Crooby's head in their hands, with hatred, anger, and an indescribable fear in their eyes. One of the taller Yama sharkmans among the fish people tried to control his trembling hand and tightly grasped the knife in his hand. The hand holding the knife had bulging veins due to excessive force. Damo Sharkman lifted the knife in his hand with force and pointed it towards Rodi into Crooby's head. Don't be afraid, everyone go up together, kill that human, and avenge Brother Crooby. Upon hearing this, the other mermaids glanced at each other and then clenched their long knives tightly, heading towards Rodi. Casually threw the head of Crooby, a fisherman in his hand, next to his headless body. Rodi looked at the group of fish people charging towards him with knives and waved casually. Except for the Damo Shark Man, all other fish people were cut off by the waist. Give Crow. Revenge. Looking at his companion who had been chopped in half beside him, the Deimos shark man was ultimately defeated by the fear of death and could no longer hold the knife in his hand. With a ding sound, the knife in his hand fell onto the deck. Her face was filled with tears, her body trembled, and her legs seemed to lose strength. She knelt on the deck and murmured, "How? How could? Big. Everyone." Rodi slowly walked up to the Deimos shark man and looked at the trembling fisherman kneeling on the deck. Rodi looked down coldly and said, "Oh. Fishman, do you still want to kill me?" Chapter 4. Alone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The fish man raised his head in a daze and looked at Rodi, who was tall and dressed in a black coat, in fear, but his whole body trembled and he couldn't speak. "Tisk, have you collapsed?" Rodi walked up to the head of the fisherman Crooby and kicked his head into the arms of the Deimos shark man. "Okay, if I dare to fall, I'll kill you." Upon hearing this, the mermaid trembled and hugged Wyrick Ruby's head tightly. "Nami, you go command Little Black, Jade Dog. Black, to bypass the coastline ahead." Upon hearing this, Nami, who was still staring at the fish man corpse on the deck in a daze, regained her composure and exclaimed excitedly, "Okay, I'm going now." She hurriedly ran to the command center to command Little Black to hold the rudder. After speaking, Rodi lay back on the back of Little White, Jade Dog, White, and silently opened the system prompt. The host killed Crooby. Killing value +1, killing value 2. Sure enough, it's because other people are too weak, even if they kill too much, it won't increase their kill value at all. Looking at the killing value in his mind, Rodi thought so. As dusk approaches, the sun slowly approaches sea level. At dusk, Kekiaxi village appears somewhat peaceful and peaceful. However, Rodi's arrival shattered this false tranquility and peace. Rodi walked up to the fish man holding Crooby's head and said, "Let's go, take me to meet your boss, Aaron." Upon hearing this, he stood up dumbfounded, grabbed Crooby's head and disembarked, heading towards Alon's lair and the realm of the evil dragon. Rodi gave Jade Dog an order to clear the deck before following him off the ship with Nami. Hey, that fisherman's head is in his arms. I know that the fish man is a cadre of the dragon pirates, and Crooby, who is offering a reward of 9 million Bailey, is the second highest reward fish man offered by the dragon pirates. I didn't expect to die. Yes. On both sides of the road, the villagers who came out to observe the movement and the joyful voices of discussion could be heard. Listening to the discussions among the villagers, Nami unconsciously smiled with joy. Looking at Nami smiling beside her, Rodi unconsciously smiled. Hey, Nami, what's going on? Nami, who is this little brother next to you? Fish man, did this young man kill him? The villagers asked Nami one after another. His name is Rodi, he is my companion. He killed the fish man, and his strength is very strong. Don't worry, everyone. The nightmare that is enveloping us is about to end. In no time, I walked to Alon's lair, in front of the gate of the dragon realm, where there were 2 fish men guarding. Hey, what are these humans gathering for? Are they planning to resist my noble fish man? You. Look, is it the head of Brother Crooby that Akuan is holding in his arms? Hurry up. Go tell the boss Alon. The 2 fishmen at the door quickly ran into the realm of the dragon and shouted to Alon, who was lying on the stone chair with squinting eyes, Alon, the big brother, the humans have gathered to rebel. Crooby, the big brother, was also killed by them and his head was chopped off. What? Crooby was actually killed by humans. Aaron crushed the armrest of the stone chair and stood up angrily. Damn humans, go get my serrated knife, I want to kill them. Alon took the serrated knife brought by the little fish man and led the fish man in the field towards the door with an angry expression. Alon walked to the door with a serrated knife and saw at a glance that Akuan, the Yama shark man, was holding Crooby's head in his arms. He tearfully and angrily said, "Ah, my fellow countrymen, humans, I must kill you. That's Brother Crooby's head, kill these humans. These people killed Crooby's big brother, kill all these humans. Alon, boss, kill all these humans and avenge brother Crooby. The fish people who followed Alon out of the dragon realm shouted angrily when they saw this scene. The villagers who followed Rodi were all frightened by the angry look of Alon and his group. Suddenly, the villagers, who were originally full of joy, quieted down and looked at Rodina and May ahead with a hopeful expression. Dharma Shark Akuan, holding the head of Crooby the fish man, saw the fish man Alon walking out of the dragon realm with a serrated knife in his hand. His eyes, which were originally dull and hollow like walking corpses, suddenly came to life. Fish man Kuan looked at Alon and pointed at Rodina May and the two of them, crying and trembling. Alon, it's this human brought by Nami who cruelly killed him. Crooby, big brother, and the fellow fish man we went to inspect together. Alon, you must avenge us. Damn it, you despicable and inferior humans. Alon looked angrily at Nami and said, looking for help from this human. It seems that Nami, you don't intend to buy back Kekiaxi village. Originally, you planned to wait until you had enough money to raise and inform the greedy Captain Mouse of the Navy's 16th branch about the news of you stealing 100 million Bailey. All the money you have worked hard to steal in these years will be confiscated by the Navy. What kind of desperate expression would you show at that time? It's interesting to think about it, ha ha ha. Alon laughed proudly. You fish man bastard dare to deceive Nami like this, we will never let you go. Nami, we all already know that you joined Alon's group to save the village. Nami, don't worry about us anymore. We all have already prepared to work hard with Alon. The villagers shouted angrily at Alon. Nami turned her head to look at everyone in the village, tears streaming down her face, and her voice hoarse, big. Everyone. At this moment, upon hearing the commotion here, Nokigo and Aegean rushed over and walked out of the crowd. Aegean looked at the tearful Nami and took a step forward to embrace her. Feeling the warm and inclusive embrace like a father, Nami hoarsely said, Mr. Jian, when did you know? Since you first joined the Along Pirates gang, the villagers have known that you joined the Along gang to save the village. Jian felt heartbroken and said, we have been pretending not to know because we are afraid that when you want to escape from Along, we will become shackles that bind you. Holding on to Nami's shoulders with both hands, looking at the tearful girl in front of her, she made a secret determination that no matter what, even if it were death, she would never become Nami's shackles again. Nami, no matter what the outcome is this time, let's all face it with you. Aegean Wen Judo. Yeah, Nami, you also saw that Along is deceiving you. Let's face it together this time. Nokigo also looked at Nami with firm eyes. The villagers also tightened their grip on the agricultural and kitchen tools in their hands, their gaze fixed on Nami. Big. Everyone. Nami looked at everyone with firm eyes, tears no longer flowing in her eyes. She turned to look at Rodi and said, Rodi, help me. Rodi's face remained calm and he said, of course. Chapter 5. Slaying Along and Going to Sea. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hahaha, have humans finished speaking yet? I want to kill you first, avenge my fellow countrymen, and then kill all these humans who dare to resist us, said Along, waving his serrated knife at Rodi. Oh, it's up to you. Rodi walked forward to the side of the fisherman Akun and reached out to touch him. Suddenly, a mesh-like small wound appeared on the fisherman's body, and the flesh and blood on his body turned into small blocks scattered. Compatriots. Devil's fruit, you are the devil's fruit power, hands, as long as you are careful not to be touched by your hands, your fruit ability should not be effective. Go to hell, humans, after speaking, Arong, angry, quickly rushed towards Rodi with his serrated sword and swung it towards him. Watching the serrated blade swung towards him, Rodi reached out and pinched the blade, unable to move even with any force from Along. Seeing that no amount of force could move the serrated knife in his hand, Long clenched his fist with the other hand and hit Rodi in the face. Rodi reached out and grabbed Along's fist, gently folding it, and Along let out a painful groan. Go up, everyone, go up and help Boss Along. Upon seeing this scene, the young mermaids waved their swords and rushed towards Rodi, but within a few steps, they were all chopped in half. Ah! Dragon! Old! Same fellow countrymen, Along shed tears of pain and despair as he watched the little fish men gradually lose their breath. How about despair? Now, do you still think the mermaid is noble? Rodi said slowly. Kill you, I must kill humans, Alon roared at Rodi in a hoarse voice. After speaking, Long opened his mouth full of sharp teeth and bit at Luo. Just as he reached out his head, it fell off his neck. Luo released Along's fist and toothed knife, and Along's headless body fell backwards. Glancing at Along's face full of unwillingness, Rodi lifted his foot and kicked him in front of the villagers in Kekiaxi village. Dead. Dead, Long just died like this. Yes. Yes. The nightmare that enveloped us ended like this. The villagers threw away their tightly held agricultural tools and cheered. Suddenly, there was a loud bang coming from the dragon realm. A ferocious giant beast, several tens of meters high, with a greenish-white appearance and a head resembling two bull horns, emerged from the swimming pool in the dragon realm. Nami walked up to Rodi and said, "This sea beast is called Moo, very fierce. It was brought by Along and his team from a great voyage, and only Along can control it." At this moment, Moo also looked at Rodi and naturally saw the headless body under Rodi's feet. As a sea beast brought by Along from the great route to the East China Sea, Moo recognized it as Along's body at a glance. Her originally fierce gaze suddenly turned into terror, and her massive body was about to escape. The sea beasts of the great voyage, I don't know how they taste. Rodi waved his hand and a giant web formed by slashing flew out, cutting the huge sea beast Moo and the dragon realm into pieces. You're really powerful. Nami sighed. Isn't that, of course. Come on, take me to taste the best orange in your mouth. The news of the annihilation of Along's group quickly spread throughout the villages and islands ruled by Along. At night, the villagers were having a banquet on the grassland in the center of the village. Rodi was sitting at the banquet table, and the villagers kept bringing delicious food and wine to Rodi, so much so that there was no food left before stopping. Rodi chewed on the mooing sea animal meat and took a comfortable sip of orange juice from the cup, feeling a slight increase in physical fitness that was almost imperceptible. Moo, a sea beast like this, is nothing in the great sea route. There are countless sea beasts that are even larger than it. In the New World, there are ancient giants like the Lord, who are 35,000 meters tall and eat such powerful sea beasts every day. With the nourishment of such flesh and blood energy, their bodies may have already surpassed those of ordinary people. No wonder the strong ones in the world of pirates often fight for days and nights. If they are injured, as long as they have enough food and rest for a few days, they can recover. Village, Back Mountain. Nami sat in front of Belleville's grave, smiling and saying, "Belleville alone has been killed, and the nightmare that enveloped the village has come to an end. Everyone can also show their true smiles, and everything will become better." Yeah, everything will get better. Are you leaving again? Nami, did you really decide to leave on your own? Noki walked slowly to the side. Don't worry, this time, I'm sailing for my own dream. I buried the money in the orange orchard, you can take it out and share it with everyone, said Nami with a hint of reluctance on her face. Oh, this is what you have accumulated bit by bit over the years. Along has been eliminated, and everyone's life will gradually improve. Why don't you keep this money yourself? These money were originally stolen for the village, but now that Along has been eliminated, it can be used to help everyone. Over the years, everyone has been living too hard, Nami said firmly. Nokigo, do you need the tattoo on your body? I'll ask Rodi to help you remove it. Nami looked at Nokigo. So the tattoo on your body was eliminated by Rodi. It's really amazing, but no need. This tattoo has been with me for so many years, and if it's gone, I'm not used to it. Noki looked up at Nana's smooth arm, and the pattern of the dragon pirates on it had already disappeared. Noki Gao, please help me take a look at Belleville more in the future. I shouldn't be able to come back after going out to sea for a long time. Che, to be honest, I am also Belmer's daughter. The next day at noon, as the sun was shining, Rodi and her companions prepared to leave and continue their voyage. Be sure to protect Nami, Rodi. Nami. You must be happy and happy. Nami. Remember to come back. The shore was filled with villagers bidding farewell, and Aegean and Noki stood in front of the villagers, waving at the boat together with the villagers. Goodbye, everyone. The ship gradually moved away from Kekiaxi village, watching Nami excitedly waving her hand towards the blurred shore in the distance. After Along's death, all the pressure constraints and shackles disappeared, allowing the girl to unleash her lively nature. Rodi walked slowly behind Nami, wrapped his hand around her soft waist and gently hugged her, saying, Nami, from now on you will only belong to me. Feeling the heat emanating from her waist, shoulders, arms, and chest, Nami's cheeks turned red and her heart pounded. Her breathing needed to be rushed, and she hurriedly broke free from Rodi's embrace, saying, Rodi, my orange tree needs watering. Watching Nami frantically run to the second deck to find a kettle and water the orange tree that had only been watered in the morning, Rodi chuckled lightly. Chapter 6. Colonel Mouse, Slaying. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the sea, 3 naval vessels are sailing in a pinion shape. Colonel, I really need to go. The other party, they are the strong ones who have completely eradicated the group of Along. I heard they are still demon fruit abilities, so let's not go, said the sergeant as he looked at Colonel Mouse beside him. Fool, that's close to 100 million Bailey. If it weren't for Along, that idiot, we had to wait for that pirate thief to gather enough Bailey. Tell me earlier, then I will have collected all the money, Colonel Mouse said greedily. Host kills Fishman Arong, killing value +5, host kills Sea Beast Moo Moo, killing value +3, killing value 10, killing that sea beast also has killing value. It seems that as long as you kill a powerful creature, you will gain killing value. Rodi looked at the system panel in his mind. Rodi, there are 3 warships ahead, Nami shouted from the bow to Rodi. It's a warship from the 16th branch of the Navy, with a mark on her chest, as she flew out of Rodi's shadow. Rodi jumped onto her back and flew towards the warship. Colonel, a big bird flew out of the ship ahead and is rapidly flying back towards the warship. Fire the gun, shoot it down. After Colonel Mouse gave the order, the 3 warships fired their guns one after another, and the shells roared towards Rodi, but before they could fly far, they all exploded in the air. Rodi flew out of the exploding smoke and landed on a warship in the middle. Rodi scanned the Navy on the deck from Rodi's back, and finally fixed his gaze on a Navy wearing a colonel's uniform with a mouse-like face. Red hair, strange patterns on the face and body, standing around 2.3 meters tall. Colonel, it's not wrong, it's the group of Along he eliminated. Upon hearing a prompt from his subordinate Navy, Colonel Mouse turned to Rodi and said, It's Along you killed. Do you know how many Baileys Along has to hand over to us every year? But you haven't hung the pirate skull flag, so you shouldn't be a pirate. As long as you hand over the 100 million Baileys confiscated from Along, the Navy won't reward you. GG. The smile was too unpleasant, and the head was lifted too high, said Rodi, waving his hand and cutting off Colonel Mouse's legs. My leg, shoot him quickly, kill him for me, Colonel Mouse wailed mournfully, holding on to his broken legs. Seeing the colonel's legs cut off, the Navy soldiers were all anxious. Upon hearing the order, they hurriedly raised their guns and fired them at Rodi. The bullets were only halfway through before being chopped and cut into pieces. Before the Navy soldiers could fire a second shot, they were chopped to death. Watching the crew on the ship being chopped and killed one after another, Colonel Mouse ignored the bleeding of his severed legs and crawled back with his hands propped up. Don't kill me, money. I don't want it anymore, there's still a lot of money in the branch base. I have a lot of money to give you. My uncle is a Navy lieutenant general, killing me is not good for you. As long as you let me go, I promise the Navy won't want you. Please, Colonel Mouse pleaded with tears of fear towards Rodi. Rodi looked at Colonel Mouse, who was begging and crawling while his broken legs were dragging 2 bloodstains on the deck. It's really ugly and boring, he said. Rodi reached out with his right hand and lightly drank. Yeah, countless irregular slashes flew out, chopping all 3 warships into pieces. The fragments of the warships slowly fell into the sea. Nagi flew back onto the boat, and Rodi jumped off Nagi's back. Nami walked nervously to Rodi and said, Rodi, why did you kill them all? Looking at Nami's nervous and anxious expression, Rodi reached out and touched her cheek, saying with a smile, do you remember Aaron mentioning that he had a deal with Colonel Mouse of the Navy? Those 3 warships were led by Colonel Mouse of the 16 branches to search for money in Kekiaxi village. Nami looked at Rodi's smile and felt a surge of emotion in her heart. Rodi is all for me, she felt Rodi's big hand gently caressing her cheek. Nami felt like a deer was bumping around in her heart, and mustered up the courage to quickly kiss Rodi's cheek with her toes up. Rodi was slightly taken aback and reached out to touch the cheek that had been kissed by Nami. He looked at Nami, whose cheeks were slightly red and her eyes were shy. Then, he grabbed Nami's slender waist with one hand and leaned down to kiss her little mouth. Woo-woo. At the moment when her lips pressed against each other, Nami's originally shy gaze suddenly widened in fear. Her hands panicked and pushed against Rodi's chest, but her strength was too weak to push Rodi. Feeling Rodi's gentle kiss and the gentle caress of her big hand behind her, she felt as if her body had lost all its strength, giving up all resistance, and her frightened and widened eyes had become gentle. The hands that were originally pushed around Rodi's waist. Feeling Nami's gentle response, Rodi reached out and picked her up through her legs, ready to walk towards the bedroom. Suddenly taking off, Nami regained her senses from the passionate kiss and reached out to push away the face that Rodi was still planning to kiss. Nami blushed shyly and said, Rodi, it's so sudden. I'm not ready yet. Can I do it for you when I'm ready? Rodi looked at Nami, who was staring at her with a shy face in her arms. Although she was very reluctant, she still let go of her soft and delicate body and said, Nami, you can't make me wait too long. It's just too sudden, I'm not ready yet, I won't wait too long, Nami said with a blush, kissing Rodi's lips again, and then holding Rodi's hand as she walked towards the kitchen and dining room. Nami smiled and said to Rodi, Rodi, where are we going next? First, look for good chefs on nearby islands, and then buy a better boat. The kitchen on this boat is too small, with too few utensils and poor ingredients. Nami looked at Rodi with a smile on her face and said, Why, dear Captain Rodi, isn't the barbecue duck and orange sauce I made delicious? She held Rodi's hand tightly and unconsciously. Delicious is delicious, but you can't eat grilled duck meat and orange sauce every day, and there isn't much duck meat on board either. The first half of the Great Route, Navy Headquarters, Marinfando. On the top floor of the Malinfandel Justice Fortress is the office of a naval marshal, with a righteous plaque hanging on the wall. Below the plaque is the current naval marshal, known as the Buddha Warring States, who is known as a wise general. The Warring States period is still full of black hair and a serious face, not the original work. 2 years after the war, he stepped down as a naval marshal and served as a naval inspector with white hair and a smile on his face. At this moment, the Marshal of the Warring States period was sitting at his desk, listening to the report from Colonel Branoy of the Navy Headquarters. Marshal, this is the intelligence sent by the 16 branches of the East China Sea. Branoy placed the report on the table of the Warring States period. Chapter 7. Killers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. August 8, 1519 in the Haiyuan calendar. Colonel Mouse of the 16 branches of the East China Sea Navy, heard that the group of fish-man Along had been annihilated, and then led 3 warships to the Dragon Domain to investigate. During the voyage, he encountered a strong man who had annihilated the group of Along, and was attacked by him. The navy led by Colonel Mouse was killed and the warship was destroyed. The attacker's name is Rodi, with red hair and a height of about 2.3 meters. He has strange patterns on his face and body, and is suspected to be a demon fruit-capable person who can emit sharp slashes. Those killed by him are all cut into several pieces by the sharp slashes. At present it is only known that he suddenly appeared in Shigua town, wiped out all the Great Axe pirates who plundered Shigua town, boarded the pirate ship of the Great Axe pirates, took the cadre of the Dragon pirates, the pirate thief Nami, and then went to the Dragon Domain to eliminate the fish-man Along and his group. Putting down the intelligence sent by the 16 branches in his hand, the Warring States period rubbed his brow in distress and said, "Is the devil fruit ability? Damn Roger, you should have gagged him before he was executed. If it weren't for the temptation he had before his death, so many lawless creatures would have gone to sea. How could the sea have become so chaotic?" The Warring States period calmed his mood and said to Branyu, Rodi the Slayer, offering a reward of 50 million pele, and Nami the Thief, offering a reward of 5 million pele. "Send this reward out." "Yes, Marshal, Rodi, look at the pirates ahead. They haven't launched an attack and are approaching us." Nami pointed her finger in front of Rodi on the lounge chair. "Oh, then wait for them to come over and take a look." Rodi took a sip of the orange juice in his hand. As the ship approached, Nami looked at the skull flag with a wolf head painted on it and said to Rodi, "Wild Wolf Pirates, Captain Wild Wolf Disco, with a bounty of 20 million Bailey. Captain Disney, your luck has been really good lately. I just grabbed a big one a while ago, and now I can grab another good ship." Yes, the people on the ship ahead were scared to see that our pack of Wild Wolf Pirates didn't run away, right? Ha ha ha. Listening to the shouting of the younger brother beside him, Disc calmly played with the 2 daggers in his hand and said, "All right, the ship is approaching. Call out the little ones and prepare to use hook locks. Kill anyone who dares to resist." As soon as he finished speaking, Rodi jumped onto the deck of the wolf pirate ship, holding an unfinished cup of orange juice in his hand. "Who are you? Dare to run onto the ship of our Wild Wolf pirate squad? No matter who you are, kid, you're doomed." The clamoring pirates slowly drew out their knives and surrounded Rodi. Disc walked ahead, holding a dagger in both hands, watching as Rodi continued to drink the unfinished orange juice, as if their pack of Wild Wolf Pirates and the captain with a bounty of 20 million Bailey were not as important as the orange juice in his hand. Disney waved his hand to calm the younger brothers down and looked at Rodi with a serious expression. "Kid, give me your name. You shouldn't be an unknown person, right?" At this moment, Rodi also finished drinking the orange juice in his hand, casually threw away the empty cup in his hand, and with a wave of his hand, he killed all the pirates in front of him, leaving only one at the helm. Rodi glanced at the pirate at the helm and ran to Rodi, trembling as he knelt down and said, "Your Excellency." At this moment, Nami also followed the thrown hook and lock to reach the wolf pirate ship. Nami looked at the pirate kneeling on the ground and said, "Take us to see what treasure there is." The trembling pirate glanced at Rodi upon hearing the words and saw that he had no reaction. He said to Nami, "Yes, sir." Rodina followed the pirate into the cabin and saw an old man in his 60s, wearing a suit with excellent fabric. However, now the suit was messy, her hair was disheveled, and she was locked in a cage with a gloomy expression. "Who is he and why is he locked in a cage?" Nami asked the pirate who was leading the way. "Sir, his name is Mike. He is the butler of a family that we have plundered. Our captain sees his strength and is ready to recruit him. But because all the members of that family except the housekeeper were killed by our pirate group, he refused to join the pirate group, so the captain prepared to take care of him for a few days. Now it is the 4th day. Let him out. Mike looked up at the man and woman who followed the pirate as they walked in. The woman was wearing a short-sleeved skirt and had a youthful expression, probably only 20 years old. The man was tall, with strange patterns on his face and body, and a look of arrogance that surpassed everything else. Mike has seen a lot of arrogant people. No matter high officials, nobles or kings, their arrogance is like a foam. They only dare to show it to civilians and people with low power. Once they meet people with higher status or dare to resist, their arrogance will break like a foam. The arrogance of the man in front of him is superior to that of noble kings and even the heavenly dragon people, as if he were a deity. The cage was opened, and Mike walked out of it. He reached out and smoothed out his messy clothes and hair, bowing to Nami and Rodi, "Respected sir and madam, thank you for rescuing me. May I know the names of the two of you?" "My name is Nami, and his name is Rodi. Rodi has already eliminated all these pirates. You can leave when we sail to the island with a town," Nami said to the meticulous old man in front of her. "Thank you very much for Lord Rodi's life-saving kindness and the kindness of eliminating the wolf pirates to avenge the Bruce family," Mike saluted Rodi. Namila pulled the unresponsive Rodi. "I killed the wolf pirates, not to avenge any so-called Bruce family, but to casually kill some uninteresting ants." Rodi looked coldly at Mike as he saluted. "Of course, for Lord Rodi, these pirates are just floating and sinking that can be easily erased, but for me, they are unrequited kindness. I am 68 this year and have been serving the Bruce family for my entire life. Now that all members of the family have been killed by the wild wolf pirates, I am also homeless. Therefore, I have a request to use the remaining life to stay by Lord Rodi's side to serve and repay his kindness. Please accept, Lord Rodi." Mike knelt in front of Rodi with a sincere expression on his face. Looking at Nami kneeling with a sincere expression on her face, she couldn't bear to turn her head and said, "Rodi, let him stay." Rodi looked at Mike and said, "Oh. Stay, what can you do?" "Lord Rodi, I have been serving as the butler of the Bruce family for 40 years. I have some knowledge in tea, cooking, floral art, gardening, cleaning, animal and horse care. Rodi knows a lot. Let him stay and help me take care of the orange tree." Rodi looked at Mike kneeling and said, "Get up, you can stay." Chapter 8. Devil's Fruit, Seeing and Hearing Colorful Dominance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing this, Mike stood up and said, "Thank you, Lord Rodi, for taking us in. Follow this pirate to the cabin to count the money," Rodi said, holding on to Nami and turning to leave the cabin. "Yes, Lord Rodi," Mike saluted Rodi's back. Stepping out of the cabin, Rodi hugged Nami and sat on the big chair of the ship. Nami looked at the wreckage on the ground and remembered that when he first met Rodi in Watermelon Town, the Great Axe Pirates were also killed in the same way. Later, the Alon group and the Navy were also killed in the same way. Nami leaned in Rodi's arms with a hopeful gaze and said, "Rodi, these pirates are all damn people, but apart from Colonel Mouse, some of those navies should be kind-hearted. Can we try not to kill those kind-hearted navies in the future?" Because Nami was raised by Belmer since childhood, even if there are scumbags like Colonel Mouse in the Navy, she still believes that most navies are kind. Upon hearing the system prompt to kill Disney in his mind, Luo Yen looked at Nami in his arms and said, "Okay, as long as they don't attack me, I won't take the initiative to kill them." Luo Yen gently stroked Nami's orange hair. "Well, thank you Rodi," Nami leaned her head against Rodi's chest. "Lord Rodi, all the belongings on board have been counted," Mike reported to Rodi with a strange patterned fruit and a book. Glancing at the strange patterned fruit in Mike's hand, it should be the devil fruit. Rodi gestured for Mike to continue. After receiving Rodi's signal, Mike said, "There are currently 128 million Baileys on board, of which 100 million Baileys were obtained from the looting of the Bruce family, 28 million Baileys were obtained from the looting of villages and towns, and a demon fruit and a book of domineering application experience were also found in the captain's cabin." What kind of domineering application experience does devil fruit have? What kind of thing is it? Upon hearing this, Nami curiously looked at the book and devil fruit in Mike's hand. Nami still remembered that before Eren was killed by Rodi, she said Rodi was a devil fruit-capable person. The devil's fruit, known as the incarnation of the sea demon, can possess magical abilities as long as it is eaten. However, only those who take the first bite can acquire abilities. Even if the first person only eats a little, the second person will eat the rest, which is useless. Each person can only eat one devil's fruit, and if they eat the second one, they will explode and die. Each devil's fruit is worth at least 100 million Baileys. The person who eats the devil's fruit is called a devil's fruit capable. The abilities of devil fruit can be divided into 3 categories: natural, animal, and superhuman. Natural can transform the body of the devourer into natural elements without any attack damage, animal can give the devourer the ability of a certain animal, and superhuman can give the devourer a certain superhuman superpower. Miss Nami, once you eat the devil's fruit, you will be cursed by the sea and unable to swim. As for this domineering application experience, I am not sure what it is. I just saw it placed together with the devil's fruit and thought it should be more precious, so I gave it to Lord Rodi together. Listening to Mick's explanation, Nami looked at Rodi and said, "Rodi, you should be the devil's fruit ability person that Mike said you could unleash that kind of slash." "No, I didn't eat the devil's fruit and I'm not a capable person. As for slash, there are many races in the world of Nami, and there are even races that can use flames and lightning." "It's amazing that there are races that can use flames and lightning," sighed Nami. As for the domineering mentioned in this book's application experience, it is basically the power that only exists in great waterways. Dominance can be divided into 3 categories: armed color domineering, seen and heard color domineering, and domineering color domineering. Only by mastering the weapon color can one have the qualification to fight against those with strong natural demon fruit abilities. The weapon color is relatively the best among the 3 color domineering powers. As long as the body is strong enough, there is a chance to master it in battle. The entanglement of the weapon color can strengthen the hardness of the sword and body. Higher level weapon colors allow excess domineering power to flow, increase the thickness of the weapon parts, and for defense, it is invisible armor. If attacked, the flowing weapon color can attack the enemy's interior and cause huge damage. Lu Sakura of the Kingdom of Harmony is an advanced skill of the weapon color. Seeing and hearing colors can detect the number of enemy positions outside the line of sight, as well as the enemy's next actions. Top-level seeing and hearing colors can even briefly predict the future. The heart net of the empty island is seeing and hearing colors. Armed and visible colors are potential powers that everyone in the world possesses, but most people cannot perceive or guide them. However, the dominant color is completely different. It is innate and cannot be improved through exercise, but can only be controlled and strengthened as one grows. After speaking, Rodi reached out and took the demon fruit in Mike's hand, which looked like an animal's head, as well as the domineering application experience book. "Nami, do you want to eat the devil's fruit? It looks like it's from the animal series." Devil's fruit from the animal series usually has its own will. Once the fruit fails to awaken, it will be taken away by the animals will inside the devil's fruit, transforming into a wild beast. "I'll find you a natural type instead. Rodi, since the animal demon fruit is so dangerous, let's not eat this demon fruit. If we don't eat it, let's sell it for at least 100 million Bailey." Nami looked at Rodi with a symbol of money in her eyes. "Didn't we harvest a lot of Bailey on this ship? Let's keep this demon fruit for now. When can we find a demon fruit guidebook and see what animal this animal-type demon fruit is?" Upon hearing Rodi's words, Nami nodded reluctantly and said, "Okay. Mike, take care of the bodies on this ship, pack up your belongings, and watch over the remaining pirate as well." "Yes, Lord Rodi," Mike nodded at Rodi's command. After Rodi instructed Mike, he hugged Nami and jumped back onto his boat, summoning Jade Dog White to listen to Nami's instructions before heading to the exercise room. Rodi sat cross-legged in the exercise room, flipping through the powerful application experience he had gained from the pirate ship. Half an hour later, Rodi closed the book in his hand and slowly closed his eyes. Rodi felt the whole world suddenly quiet down. The whole world presents a peculiar black and white ink painting-like scene to Rodi's senses. Rodi can clearly perceive the three people on two ships, even though he has turned off the act of listening, he still hears the breathing of the people on board. Half an hour had passed, and Rodi slowly opened his eyes. The world returned to normal colors, and he had a domineering grasp of colors. Chapter 9. Armed Colors, Chef. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Taking a deep breath, Rodi began to try to cultivate armed color dominance. Believing firmly is strength. As long as the physical fitness reaches a certain standard, combined with firm beliefs, this power can be guided out. Buzzing, a layer of pitch-black energy appeared on Rodi's hand, and a thick wave wrapped around it. Rodi carefully felt the wave wrapped around his hand, and his dominance slowly flowed. Comics are colorless, and here we use animation settings. Rodi slowly exhaled a breath. Armed color mastery. So the next step is to be domineering. If armed color is to attach one's spiritual beliefs and will to the body of the sword, then domineering color is to release one's strong spiritual will to others. The weak and mentally weak will not be able to withstand the impact of domineering color's spiritual will, and will foam at the mouth and faint. But how to guide it out? Rodi remembers that in the original work, Domingo was about to be burned to death when extreme anger and hatred led to the release of the dominant color, which should have clear enemies or targets to release. Rodi pondered for a while, but still had no clue. Since the dominant color has no clue, let's first exercise the armed color and the visible color. The Great Passage, Fishman Island. The deputy captain of the Sun Pirates, Itachi Mermaid Aladdin, handed the newspaper he had bought and the bounty to Shirhei, saying, "Shirhei boss, Aaron Crooby and all of them have been killed by humans." Shirhei received the newspaper and bounty from Aladdin, killed Rodi the Slayer, killed all members of the Great Axe Pirates, killed all the fishermen of the Dragon Pirates, and killed all the navy led by Colonel Mouse of the 16 navy branches. He is suspected to be a devil fruit-capable individual. Putting down the newspaper, Shi Ping looked at the bounty in his hand, which showed a man with red hair, tattooed face, and cold eyes. Murderer Rodi, a bounty of 50 million Bailey. Former leader of the Dragon Pirate Squad, now a sailor under the killer Rodi's command, the thief cat Nami, is offering a reward of 5 million Bailey. Putting down the newspaper in his hand and offering a reward, Shaping frowned and let out a long sigh. Boss Shiping, Alon and his companions have all been killed by humans. Should we seek revenge? Yeah, Shiping boss, after all, Alon and us are still fellow countrymen. And that human is still a pirate. Listening to the voices of the crew members in his ear, Shi Ping frowned and said, "Quiet." After the crew members all quieted down, Shi Ping slowly said, "Don't forget the teachings of Tiger and Princess Iji. There are good and bad people in humanity, and Along and his team chose this outcome. As for this human, I will observe it." After Shi Ping finished speaking, the crew members did not discuss anymore. Along, if I had forced you to stay, it wouldn't have been the same result now, Shi Ping thought silently as he looked into the distance. In a messy room on Fishman Street, there were several fishmans. Hody Jones, a great white shark, put down his newspaper and bounty in his hand, and inserted a dagger into the bounty on the table. Angry, he said, "How could you possibly kill Brother Long, a lowly human? You must have used some despicable means to kill the noble fishman." "Yeah. Hody boss, how could a weak human possibly kill the powerful Orong Big Brother? This weak human must have used some despicable method to plot against Orong Big Brother." "Yeah. These weak and lowly humans should be slaves to our noble fish people. How could they possibly kill the powerful and noble fish people? They must have used despicable means to plot against Brother Long." The fish people next to Hody Jones shouted angrily. Hody Jones waved his hand to calm the fish people around him, reached out to pull out his dagger, and picked up the pierced bounty. Humble humanity, when I become the king of the Fish-Man Island, gather our powerful Fish-Man warriors, kill the Red Earth continent to overthrow the world government, and turn you all into slaves of noble fish people. I will then cut off your head, ha ha ha. 2 days later, in the East China Sea, a seagull wearing a hat flapped its wings and landed on the fence in front of Rodi, then bowed to him. Looking at the seagull in front of him, Rodi couldn't help but marvel at the wonder of the world of pirates, where most animals can understand human language. Nami took out a 100 Pele coin and bought a newspaper from the delivery gull. The delivery gull nodded and flapped its wings before flying away. Will anyone really go and catch Joba because of 50 Bailey? Rodi, look at us. We're on a bounty. You were offered a bounty of 50 million Pele, and I was also offered a bounty of 5 million Pele. Why was I offered a bounty? I didn't do anything. Nami walked up to Rodi with the newspaper and the bounty. Rodi put down the drink in her hand and took the newspaper from May's hand. Well, the photo was taken well, she nodded in satisfaction as she looked at the reward in her hand. Rodi looked at the newspaper in his hand, and White Horse Cavendish entered a new world, becoming a highly anticipated newcomer. Saki, the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, was killed by a member of the 2nd Division, Marketic. Marketic defected to the Whitebeard Pirates. The Whitebeard Pirates dispatched the captain of the 2nd Division, Ace, to pursue the former 2nd Division member, Marketic, who had defected. Oh, Blackbeard has already obtained the dark fruit. The Navy should also have realized that Ace is the son of the pirate King Roger. Lord Rodi, there's an island ahead. Mike approached Rodi and bowed to greet him. Mango Town. Mike put away the sails, and Nami controlled the rudder to park the ship at the port, leaving Jade Dog Black to guard the ship. 3 people and 1 dog got off the boat, and Nami walked on the street of Mango Town holding Rodi's arm, followed by Butler Mike and Jade Dog White carrying a bag. Suddenly, this hair, the patterns on his face are not wrong. He is Rodi, the murderer with a reward of 50 million Bailey, shouted a passerby looking at Rodi. Break hour, the noisy passers-by on the street suddenly quieted down, and the passers-by trembled as they looked at Rodi, afraid to make any sound. At this moment, an elderly man leaning on a cane walked out of the quiet crowd. The old man trembled and walked up to Rodi with a humble tone, saying, "Slayer, I am the mayor of Mango Town. If you need anything, please give orders to me." "Oh, are there any telephone worms in your town?" Rodi asked casually. "Slayer, there is no telephone worm in Mango Town as you said," the mayor replied humbly. "Telephone worms seem to be commonly used in great voyages, and it's normal for them not to be in the small town of Donghai. Are there any good chefs in town?" "Mr. Killer, as for the chef, a woman who claimed to be the #1 chef in the East China Sea came to the town yesterday," the mayor cautiously replied. Chapter 10. Flame Gate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The mayor brought Rodi and his group to a meat market and pointed to a woman with pink hair, tall figure, and a red dress, saying, "Slayer, it's this woman who claims to be the #1 chef in the East China Sea." Upon hearing the mayor's words, the woman with pink hair turned around and started dancing, kicking and tapping. The dance stopped, and 2 men appeared next to her. One was short, with a face longer than a winter melon, and the other had a nose larger than her eyes, a chubby man. Lord Carmen is originally the #1 chef in the East China Sea, not someone who claims to be. "I am Lord Carmen's first disciple, Leo," said the short man with a face longer than a winter melon. "Lord Carmen has defeated many chefs in the East China Sea. I am Lord Carmen's second disciple, Jose," said Jose with a big nostril, revealing a photo in his hand of the defeated chef. At this moment, the woman with pink hair waved the fan in her hand with the words "rice" written on it and said, "I am the first chef in the East China Sea, known as the Flame Carmen." "Oh, ha, 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 ha." The woman laughed and spun into the air before falling off in a daze. Carmen's disciples Leo and Josie skillfully caught him, and judging from his level of proficiency, he should have picked him up quite a bit. The crowd at the scene was quiet, obviously stunned by this performance. Rodi rubbed her eyebrows in silence. These are all strange things, but they belong to strange things. This woman named Carmen's cooking skills should be good, after all, not everyone can defeat so many chefs. Glancing at Carmen, who had passed out of his daze, Rodi showed no interest in talking to his two oddly shaped disciples. He gestured to Mike behind him to take Carmen and his 3 disciples onto the ship. "All right, we'll buy some supplies and leave," Rodi waved as the nearby mayor, feeling uneasy, left. Rodina bought some food and the town's specialty, pomelo-sized heart-shaped mangoes, as well as the drawings and ink needed for Nami to draw a nautical chart, and then returned to the ship. On the first floor of the conference room, Rodi leaned back on a large chair and waited for Carmen to arrive. Soon, Carmen opened the door to the conference room and walked up to Rodi. "Oh, you know my identity?" Rodi asked casually as he looked at Carmen with a serious expression in front of him. Carmen replied, "I know, Rodi the killer, who is offering a reward of 50 million pele. Do you know why I have to take you aboard the ship?" "I know, heading to the Great Passage, your butler has already told me that I can promise you, but I have 2 conditions," Carmen replied firmly. "Let's talk." Rodi still casually replied. "I hope to compete with a chef in the East China Sea for culinary skills, and also search for the Blue Ocean AIIBUR on the Great Voyage, which is a sea area that gathers ingredients from all over the world and is the dreamland of all chefs." "Well, it doesn't sound like a difficult request, but I don't agree with it," Rodi asked teasingly as he looked at Carmen. "Well, even if you kill me, I won't be the chef on your ship," Carmen looked at Rodi with a determined expression on his face. "If you don't understand the weight of death, it's best not to easily say the word death. But if you want me to agree to your request, it's not impossible. I can give you a chance to take a step towards me, and as long as you take 1 step, I will agree to you." Looking at Carmen with a firm face, Rodi put aside the teasing on his face and looked at him coldly. Upon hearing this, Carmen, with a firm gaze, lifted his step and was about to walk towards Rodi. However, as soon as he lifted his step and leaned forward, he suddenly saw numerous wounds on his body. Carmen looked at Rodi and realized that this was the other person's ability. The pain and blood from the wounds all told him that if he moved forward, he would die. Glancing at Rodi with a cold expression in his eyes, Carmen slowly closed his eyes and remembered fragments of his continuous cooking practice over the past decade. The practice had already made it difficult for him to distinguish why he was learning cooking, only knowing that cooking was an integral part of himself. Suddenly, Carmen lifted his foot and fell forward, but the expected injury did not come. The falling foot softened and he fell in front of Rodi. "I promised you," said Carmen Rodi in a slow voice as he fell in front of him. Upon hearing this, Carmen breathed a sigh of relief. However, looking at the numerous small wounds on his body, Carmen's eyes misted and he felt uncomfortable, wanting to cry. There is no woman in the world who does not love beauty, and Carmen, who loves dancing, is no exception. Moreover, Carmen is not less proud of his beauty. With so many wounds on his body, even if they have all healed, how many ugly scars will be left behind? How can he dance with so many ugly scars on his body? Thinking that he can't dance in the future, Carmen, who loves dancing, feels that his life will be bleak. It's better to just die. Looking at Carmen, whose eyes were misty and about to drop a small pearl, Rodi reached out and placed his hand on the wound around Carmen's waist to reverse the technique and quickly heal the wound on Carmen's body. Carmen looked at the healing wound on his body in disbelief and couldn't help but reach out to touch it. It was soft and smooth, without any scars. He couldn't help but laugh and cry, "Okay. Okay, there are no scars at all." Suddenly, a wave of heat came from his waist. It was Rodi's hand placed on his waist. Originally, his clothes were torn open by Rodi's slash, but due to the excitement of the wound healing, he ignored Rodi's large hand placed on his waist. Carmen's cheeks turned slightly red, and he hurriedly pushed away Rodi's big hand. He got up and was about to run. Rodi casually threw the coat he was wearing onto Carmen's body. "Let me taste your cooking today," Rodi shouted to Carmen, who hurriedly ran out of the conference room wearing a coat. Outside the meeting room, Mike, who was carrying juice on a tray, looked at Carmen, who was wrapped in a Rodi coat and hurriedly ran out of the meeting room, showing a smile. The sky is gradually darkening. Rodi sat on a large chair in the restaurant, with a sumptuous table filled with food. In the steaming pot, there was a strong aroma, shiny oil, and the food looked very good, making people very appetizing. "Rodi, this meat tastes good," said Nami as she picked up a piece of sea beast meat from the steaming pot and handed it to Rodi's mouth. Rodi opened his mouth and ate the steaming sea animal meat handed over by Nami. He chewed it carefully and savored it. It tasted soft and delicious, and could be easily chewed, but he could still feel its rich texture. The satisfaction instantly filled his mouth. Rodi picked up a sushi and took a big bite. The deliciousness of the seafood and the sweetness of the rice filled his mouth with a rich sense of layering. In the real world, sushi doesn't have such a taste and layering. Taking another big sip of the wine, Rodi was a bit eager to go to the sea restaurant Baladi to taste the food made by Sanji and his master Redfoot Jeep.